Well, hey, let's get on into it.
Today I want to talk about the leadership development, and I want to talk about what I'm calling key dimensions of leadership development. And I want you to know that I'm not sharing today as any kind of expert. I'm sharing as somebody who's made a lot of mistakes and has had a lot of mentors forward in my life. And so I just kind of want to smash all this together in a big bundle and deliver it to you. Not because we're doing all these things perfectly at our church, but we are doing all of these things at some level. And here's what I want to say as we kind of open up is that most pastors and leaders don't struggle with vision. They struggle with developing leaders who can carry it and own it. And that is why we have to have many dimensions to our leadership abilities. We can't just kind of be a one-trick pony and do one thing. We've got to be able to do a lot of things as a leader to develop the people that God has entrusted us in our hands. Why? Because God has a call on your life so that you could fulfill that call. Not the way you envisioned it, but the way that God envisioned it. So today, here's my hope for you. My hope is that you can discover maybe some hidden gaps in your leadership, in your ministry, the type of gaps that stall out progress. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Anybody ever get frustrated with progress being stalled? And sometimes, you know, it's just God and it's just what's happening. But sometimes it's our own leadership. And I always tell my wife and some of my closest friends, I say, I don't care what happens when it comes to the future of our church. I don't care if we stay the same size or if we grow by 2. I just care that I'm not in the way. And so whatever God decides to do with our ministry, that's up to Him. And so that's my hope, and that I can help you maybe discover some of those gaps. And here's what's at stake for all of us if we take our leadership development ability lightly, is that if we miss this, we're going to end up carrying the load alone. Dragging a team along that is not equipped to lead in the way that they should be. I don't know about you, but I don't want to lead that kind of team, do you? We've all preached Ephesians 4, and you could probably all get up here and preach it to me right now. But here's what we know, is that pastors and leaders, we exist to build the saints for what? The work of the ministry. And I have to admit, for me, sometimes I view that as a lesser part of my calling and not like the core thing that God has invited me to do as a leader. And let me say it like this. Biblical leaders exist to equip, not to perform. And sometimes when we get frustrated trying to equip people, then we end up kind of like, the circus monkey, we're just doing it all, and before we know it, everybody's watching us trying to do the ministry, when that's not the calling that we have. And every person in this room, you are a gifted leader, and our mandate by God is to equip the saints for the work of the ministry. And what we're going to talk about today is very simple, but it's not easy to do. I mean, most things are really simple, actually, but they're not easy to do. So, in no particular order, here's the first dimension I want to talk about when it comes to leadership development, and that is, if you're taking notes, of the connecting dimension. Your key people, my key people, they need us to connect with them. They need relationship. When we take a look at how Jesus led people, His disciples were not His hirelings. Jesus knew them. He knew their families. He knew what made them happy. He knew what made them sad. And we see in John 15:15, Jesus said to His followers, I no longer call you what? Servants, but I call you friends. And some pastors actually refuse friendship with their staff. And I think we really miss the boat. And here's the point, if we're going to be like Jesus, we must be able to develop this leadership dimension, which is the ability to connect with people. If you're taking notes, this dimension builds trust. And how many know trust actually goes both ways? And if you are a very ego-driven leader, and the only reason why I know you might think this way is I may have thought this a time or two, but I'm mostly concerned that you trust me. Or excuse me, I'm mostly concerned that I can trust you. I don't really care if you can trust me. I'm the leader. I'm the boss. I have the power to hire you, to fire you if I want. But the truth is that trust actually goes both ways. So you need relationship and connection with your team, but they also need it with you. Here's what I have learned is that people struggle to trust leaders they don't know. And when you hire somebody new or somebody new joins your team, and by the way, this works for any type of ministry. It can work for a Celebrate Recovery ministry. You don't have to be the lead pastor. We're talking about how you lead your people. And when people join your team, you only have a small period of time where we want them to just trust me because I'm the pastor that hired them, right? You should just trust me. I'm the pastor. Well, that only works for so long. We begin to have to build trust. And it's not always that they don't trust you. And sometimes it can be frustrating because you could feel like people don't trust me. It's just that they haven't spent enough time with you to be able to trust you. Good. They need to see you when you're happy, when you're mad. They need to see you respond in all the right ways and honest ways. And then when you blow it, they need to hear you say, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. No, making excuses, even as a leader, they need to hear us. And that's where trust is built. Every leader needs trust from their team to accomplish the vision that God has given them. Because you can't get there alone. And you need people to trust you. When you say, let's go that way, they need to trust that you know what you're saying and you know where you're going. Here's a really practical tip. Develop a rhythm of connecting with your people. And each one of these dimensions are actually a system that needs to be embedded in your ministry. And so when I say develop a rhythm of connecting, I'm saying have a plan, have a system for how you are going to regularly connect with your people. Maybe it's monthly, maybe it's quarterly, maybe it's one time a year. But set up one-on-ones with people, most specifically, that report to you. So make sure you're engaging with your board members if you're a pastor, or if you're a missionary. Make sure you're engaging with your key team members. If you're a parachurch ministry, or maybe you're running a ministry within a church, make sure you're investing one-on-one time to connect with people who directly report to you. And don't just connect about ministry. Connect about life. And make sure you're having meetings that are just about life, that are not always about ministry. Hey, let's go have coffee. You know, they're thinking the pastor's got a new thing they're going to ask of you. Surprise them by not talking about ministry at all and just say, how are you? How's your family? What is Jesus doing in your life today? You know, tell me what you see God doing. Just connect with people on a regular basis outside of ministry. We try to do that with our team. We try to do that with every board member and their family. We do that with our staff. We just take time. Sometimes it's really planned, sometimes it's spontaneous, but we have time with them often. Why? For that specific reason. And some of you might say, well, isn't that going to cost us a lot of money? That's a lot of coffees. That's a lot of lunches. But here's what I'll say. It will cost you a whole lot more money and time if you don't invest in that space with people. Here is something else in your notes. When you take time for a connection, here's what you're saying to your team. I want you to thrive.
We always say this to our team, and I say it because somebody said it to me one time as a young leader. We care about your walk more than your work. We care more about who you are as an individual son and daughter of God than we do when it comes to you working for our organization. Because if you're doing bad in that area, you will do bad as an employee.
You will do bad as a team member if you're not doing good in your personal life. Listen, when people feel cared for, they thrive personally. They thrive professionally. And we need that trust equity with them to be able to accomplish what God has given us. So here's the question we have for you today. When is the last time you have spent one-on-one time with key leaders? It's a question I want you to think about this weekend. And here's the next question. What are my systems that I have in place that ensure that I am regularly connected with people? Because if you leave it up to chance, if you're like me, it probably won't happen. it'll turn into another one of those conversations. Hey, brother, we need to grab lunch. Yeah, awesome. Boom, pound. See you next Sunday. Bye. Anybody ever been there before? We got to be intentional. Here's like a super practical tip. I hate calendaring. It drives me insane. Honestly, it stresses me and overwhelms me. It might not be that for you. So here's a couple of resources that I use. For years, I used Calendly. Okay, you can just set up windows in your schedule when you want to meet with people, and it creates a little link. And you can just, every time you're with somebody at church or with one of your leaders and that idea comes to mind, let's meet, just send them a link. Hey, find a time in your schedule that works for you. Here's my schedule. Pick a slot, and then let people easily connect with you. So just make it easy to connect with you. Here's the next key dimension when it comes to leadership development. Not only do we need to connect, but we also need the collaborating dimension. If you're taking notes, the collaborating dimension. Listen, top-down leadership is fast and clean, and it's very directive. It's not always great for developing people. It's not the best way to get down in the trenches and see how your team members are working. It's not always an easy way for them to see how you're working and how you're coming up with ideas and how your heart is ticking and how you've got to that idea. It's very difficult unless we get in the trenches together. Collaboration is more like a slow cooker. And that's frustrating for fast-moving leaders. Most leaders, they don't like to move slow. If you're anything like me, you don't really like to move slow. But if you want to collaborate, you kind of have to pull your foot off the gas. And you've got to slow down. And you've got to meet with the team. And you've got to collaborate. And you've got to have more meetings. And you've got to flesh stuff out. And I know it would have been a whole lot easier if you just walked in the room and gave the marching orders and then everybody just went to work. But I want you to know that there's something that gets built in collaboration that can't be built without it. And I'll tell you what that is in a moment when I get down to that part of the notes. The Bible says this. It says, how many two are better than one? Two are better than one. Because they have what? They have a return on their labor. And so many of us, not because we think we're great, but I think mostly because a lot of pastors get overwhelmed with what they're doing and leaders get overwhelmed with what they're doing. They end up doing a lot of stuff on their own. But Jesus says, hey, don't do it alone. It's frustrating. It's hard. Slow down. Do it with people. Here's the reality. When you don't collaborate with everybody, you can't see blind spots. And I think that's some of the reasons why I didn't collaborate early on, because I didn't like my blind spots. I didn't like that when I collaborated with people. I didn't like how people had to tell me like, hey, that's not going to work, Shawn. Well, I'm the man of God of the hour with the vision and the idea. You tell me, I'm going to tell you how it's going to work. I didn't like that. It was frustrating when they gave me feedback. But I began to learn about my own blind spots. And guess what? They got to learn about their blind spots. How many know blind spots are massive gaps in our leadership? And they will hinder God's plan for your life. They will hinder the vision like nothing else. Here's why this dimension is so important in your notes. Because this dimension builds confidence. See, when your team, have you ever worked with a leader that you're just like, I just wish my pastor or my leader, not you, Pastor Mike, he's my father-in-law, I'm definitely going to lie here right now because my inheritance is on the line, you know what I mean? Her inheritance. Get it straight, boy. See, I never have to wonder what he's thinking. That's always good news. But have you ever worked with a leader where you're just thinking, I just wish they understood this blind spot about themselves? Because if we just get that on the table, it would just make things a whole lot easier. And when we collaborate together, usually all that stuff has its way of finding itself at the surface. And when we can do that, we can build confidence because we can go, oh, well, you're actually not good at that, but Clay is really good at that. And so when we come with this idea, it's not going to be missed because Clay's going to be the detail guy, and Anthony's going to help follow through with that, and Reed's going to get up and be the cheerleader of the thing. And this thing, it's going to happen. It's going to be well because we're all aware of our blind spots, and we're not going to go running forward into a battle ill-equipped. In my 20s, I would plan stuff alone all the time. My poor wife, I was 25,
She's having a traumatic experience right now. She just shook her head and was like, dear Lord. I would plan events alone, and I would come out and give all the stuff, and we would go to work, and man, everyone was stressed out, and it was unorganized, and I was like, what is wrong with these people? Why are they all stressed out? And they're looking at me going, what is wrong with this guy? I mean, after all, I gave them my master plan, but when I started learning collaboration, and I started learning how to honor the people around me, and honor the boundaries around me, man, we started having confidence as a team. Honestly, I feel like you can give our team almost any task. As long as it's within our wheelhouse, we're going to do a really good job. Because we have confidence in each other. We know who to go to and where to go to get the job done. If you're taking notes, when you take time for collaboration, here's what you're saying. I want you to speak up. I want you to speak up. A lot of people sit in rooms with leaders who are leading meetings and don't know if they have the freedom to speak up. They're afraid. If I say this, is there going to be retaliation? Is it going to look like I'm disrespectful? All of our team knows that at any time, in a respectful and an appropriate way, we always speak up at all times, no matter what. Why? Because this is the work of God. And here's what I have learned as a leader over time. God puts people in the room that we need to listen to. Because just as God is alive and well in me, He's also alive and well in you. So that means when you open your mouth, I'm actually listening for what God has to say. Because I have learned that He has not downloaded everything to me. He's downloaded some of the information to my wife. He's downloaded some of the information to Clayton. And so I have to listen and discern what God is saying in the room as a leader. And then I get to decide how we move forward with that information, because that is my leadership responsibility and my leadership function. But it's important for our people to know, I care what you think, and I value your voice. Here's something important. You can write this down. There's value in the voices around you. There's value in the voices around you. Listen for His voice and their voice. And that's really humbling, honestly. Because sometimes I feel the pressure, like, I'm the pastor, I'm supposed to come up with all the answers and have all the great ideas and have all the things, and that's not the truth. That's why God brought a team together. That's why He surrounded you with the people you have. Here's a question I want you to consider. How regularly am I collaborating with the team around me? And I use that word regularly. This is not an occasional thing we do. I said every one of these things have a system attached to them. So what system do you have that's attached to your team's collaboration? For our team, I have a system. We have a system of connecting with a one-on-one lead meeting. My wife and I co-pastor, so we collaborate together. We have a system. We have a meeting for that. We have a creative meeting where we collaborate together as a team. We have a staff meeting where we collaborate together as a staff, and we can go on and on and on. Our team can know that we are going to collaborate. They can depend on it. It's going to happen. We're going to ask them for their opinion. We're going to hear their voice. And here's a question I want you to also consider is, what's one thing you can do, and this should be in your notes, to collaborate more often as a part of your leadership development system? Is this about you developing leaders? And so without having these regular moments of collaboration with your team, we are not building the saints well for the work of the ministry. And when we miss the boat on this thing called collaboration, then our team is going to leak confidence in working together. How many of you want a confident team? So we've got to collaborate. Let's talk about the next dimension. If you're taking notes. It's what I'm going to call the commissioning dimension. I didn't really like this word, but I needed all C. So commission is what we got. You know, Jesus could have expanded the kingdom any way He wanted. He could have done it any way. But He did it by commissioning leaders. I don't need to re-preach Matthew 28:19. But the point is simple, is that He empowered and He released people. One of the things I learned early on in ministry is this phrase, lead with an open hand.
Don't hoard all the ministry opportunities, but give them away. Lead with an open hand. We should be releasing ministry opportunities to the people that are surrounding us. God has put a team around you for a reason. He wants you to release ministry opportunities in their hand. And here's what has been released to me that has helped me grow as a leader. People have released pulpits to me when they should not have.
Right.
I didn't know I was that bad, Pastor. He's looking at me like, you are. I know, I remember. But people released podiums to me when I wasn't equipped. They released teams to me when I was not equipped. They released staff meetings and rooms to me when I was not equipped. Board rooms were given to me when I was not equipped. I was asked to lead projects that I had never led before. I was asked to lead volunteer trainings that I had never done before. I have been asked to speak in rooms just like this before that I have never been equipped to do. And then the list goes on and on. But guess what? It was all of those moments that built me. In fact, this moment right here, this team trusting me to collaborate with me and commission me to lead is building me as a leader. You probably have grown very much the same way. Most of you too are probably not qualified for the things that God has put in your hand. We have all heard this long ago, that God does not call,
Equip, He equips. And I think that's very true. Somebody took a chance on you. So take a chance on people. Give a chance to somebody. Here's why this dimension is so important, if you're taking notes. Because this dimension builds influence. The people that you're leading, church members, the people that your parachurch ministry is ministering to, they will not follow somebody that you don't release influence to. If you're the only influential person, then they're always going to be giving a side eye to the people that you're like, hey, go do this. You want them to go do it as you would do it. But when we don't release them with the right amount of influence, when people start second guessing what's happening over there, they're going to be looking for you and going, is it okay? And that undermines their authority. That undermines the vision that you have set forth and how you're trying to accomplish something. So it's so important that when we are commissioning people that we're releasing the influence with them. Because you need an influential team. Sometimes an influential team is painful. Because people start cheering them instead of cheering you.
My father-in-law would sit in his office with the window to the parking lot, and somebody would come walking by the window with a pie. And he would be like, they're bringing me a pie today. Oh man, that's so awesome. And he waits in the room for that pie. And no one knocks on his door. Because he's released some influence and authority to the youth pastor over there. And the youth pastor comes walking in the room with a full pie. And the pastor's like, that's my pie. Have you ever felt like that? Oh, that's my pie. As long as you just come and bring a piece of the pie to the pastor, everything's going to be okay. But people will start getting your pie when you give influence away, and that's how you will know you're doing a good job as a leader. If you're a leader feeling crushed by the weight of ministry, perhaps it's because you have not released enough influence. And you've actually created yourself as a bottleneck to what God is trying to do in the house. Because if we have to be the most influential, the most powerful person, the person with the best counsel, the person who knows how to do deliverance, who knows how to do the hospital calls, who knows how to do all the things, and they have to call us, and there's nobody else equipped to do the work of the ministry that we're talking about. Anybody should be able to do those kind of things at a basic level. We've really missed the boat. Here's a practical tip: commissioning leaders and giving things away. It's actually really simple to do, and there's a book called the 80-20 principle, but I want to encourage you to use that principle when it comes to giving things away. Here's what the 80-20 principle is that 80% of your impact, okay? 80% of your best impact comes from 20% of what you do. So when people look at the ministry, what brings the most impact to your organization really comes from 20% of the work that you do. That means that 80% of the work you do should be given away so that you can focus more on the 20% because it's actually doing more impact. Because everybody can't give the vision to the ministry like you have been called to give the vision to the ministry as a leader. You're supposed to carry that. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to be able to give clear communication with the vision in the ministry and clear order. Everybody is not tasked to do that, but you as a leader are tasked to do that. So if you will be able to take, instead of just 20% of your energy on that and give 100% of your energy on that, imagine what would happen in your ministry. So try to figure out how to give that 80% away. That's one of the things that our team is trying to figure out right now. How can we give more stuff away? Well, I can't give it away to this person. Why? It's not because they're not able. It's not because they don't have the capacity that they can grow into that capacity. They're just not there yet because we haven't equipped them to do that yet. So let's get to equipping people. If you're taking notes, when you take time to commission people, you're saying this: I want you to shine. I want you to shine. People need to know we're willing to share the limelight. You know, the truth is, most of us, if we were not able to shine where we're at and advance where we're at, we would not stay where we're at. That's why pastors leave their ministry assignments. That's why you leave your roles. Because somebody's not allowing you to shine. They're not allowing you to grow the way God has intended you to grow and flourish. So you get up and move. Why would we expect our staff and our volunteers to stick around when we don't let them shine? And we're not creating new opportunities for them. We're not calling new ministry out of them. We're not calling new leadership out of them. And we're not giving them new things to lead. By the way, the book, the 80-20 Principle, is by a guy named Richard Koch. I'll let you say that. Koch. We're talking about the dimension of leadership development, the dimensions of leadership development. The very last one and final is what I'm going to call the critiquing element. The critiquing element. Critiquing is so essential to development. And I didn't say criticize, I said critique. And there's a difference. Criticism has a hard intention to tear someone or something down. And a critique has a hard intention to reveal so that something can be built back up. And that's the difference. And you can be saying all the exact same things, but it's the position of the heart that will tear down or will build up. And so that's why we've got to be very careful with our heart when we enter into the critiquing dimension. I love what Proverbs says. It says, Proverbs 19:20, it says, listen to advice and accept discipline. At the end, you will be counted among the wise. So when you don't listen to advice and you don't accept discipline, you don't expose yourself to critique, you will not be counted among the wise. People will not think of you as wise. If you're a leader who cannot receive critique and feedback from anybody on the team, you will not be counted among the wise. We all need feedback to grow. I don't like feedback, honestly. I have a friend that's like, feedback is the breakfast of champions. My friend Joey. He's like, I love feedback. There's some people like, I love feedback because it makes me better. I'm like, maybe I just hate you. Because I just don't feel that way when somebody gives me feedback. I really don't. But we need feedback. Why is this dimension so important in your notes? Because this dimension builds wisdom. Not just for you, but the other team members. We become a wise team. because receiving criticism is actually linked to gaining and receiving feedback. There's some wisdom that can only be found through feedback that can't be found any other place. So if you're struggling in life right now, you can't seem to figure it out, and you haven't asked for feedback yet, I want you to know that there may be a treasure that God has for you that might be found sitting down with somebody and saying, hey, can you give me feedback on this? And when you ask it for the first couple times, people might not really think you're serious, so they'll probably lie to you. But the more you ask them over and over and over, and you build that equity with them, they will begin to be honest with you. Let me offer you a practical tip. I keep mentioning that with each one of these dimensions, you actually need a system of operation. For this one, the system of operation, I want to call this feedback loops. Feedback loops. What kind of feedback loops do you have that it's a regular system in how your team operates and how you operate? A system for giving, but also for receiving critique. And notice I said giving and receiving, right? It's not just about giving it, but it's also about receiving it. Far too many leaders build these structures in where they're giving the feedback, but they don't get half the feedback that their team gets. So build a structure that you're receiving the same amount of feedback. And if you're not receiving a constant amount of feedback, that'd be a red flag to you. But you're really not under very good accountability if people don't have freedom to give you feedback. That's a dangerous place to be. Here are two feedback loops I want to throw you as we get ready to land the plane. The first is this. Create feedback loops with those who you oversee. Okay? People you oversee. Offer them regular one-on-one connections where you're creating feedback loops. One of the things that we ask in every single one-on-one, Clay's shaking his head over there. Just look at him nod. I just want you to know we're not lying. We actually do this. I don't know. I always kind of shake a little bit before I ask this question. And I was like, I hope it's not too bad. But I always ask, is there anything bugging you? I want to know it. Because if it's bugging you, then it's hindering something. Second thing, I always ask, is there anything we can do for you? Feedback loop. I'm giving them feedback in the meeting. And I always tell them, every time you come to the meeting, be ready for feedback. But I'm also ready for feedback. If you ask this question frequently, things will not build up and mound up into a gigantic mountain and then explode on you. The reason why we ask this is because we faced a couple mountains. So we ask this more often. Don't wait for a one-on-one annual review to ask that question because you will be unloaded on it. But ask it regularly. Good. Let's see, number two. The second feedback loop that I would encourage you to create is for events that you oversee or your team oversees. A little over 5 years ago, I was invited to be a part of an event evaluation, like some of you probably have, for Lead Conference. And I was blown away how these leaders were willing to get in a room and just let pastors say whatever the heck they wanted to say about Lead Conference. How many of you got some opinions? Can you imagine all those opinions coming out at one time? And I was just amazed at how well the moderator moderated the room and all of the great things that came out of that event. And then the next year, you saw them implement a lot of the things that went wrong. And then they just kind of rinse and repeat over and over. And I thought, well, we got to do this. So we started slowly doing some event evaluation, a little here and there, a little over here. And people didn't like it. And some of our leaders didn't like it. And it was frustrating for some people. And we started leaking it down into other ministry departments. And hey, when you're done with that event, doing an event evaluation, because how many know, like, everyone's frustrated sometimes after an event. Okay, well let's just talk about it. Let's make sure we don't repeat that. Those are called blind spots. So let's have an event feedback moment, and let's share a few things, and then let's figure out how we can correct those. And I want to tell you, we like we kill event feedback now. I mean, we just get in there. We're ready to get punched right in the face. We're ready to celebrate. But no one is like, oh well, I'm not saying, Anthony, that that you were mean or anything. But which, by the way, if you know Anthony, like this is like the sweetest guy on planet Earth right here. But we don't have to worry about feelings. We know we have a job to do. We're just gonna come in and we're gonna do the job. And when I was running these evaluation meetings, they were okay. But now that my wife and the team is really taking control of them, they are actually amazing. Let me give you just a couple really simple questions we ask in these. This is not rocket science. You could probably hop on ChatGPT and it'll give you 5 different ways to do a event evaluation. But first thing we do is gather all the metrics, right? How many people were there? How much money did we spend? How much stuff was left? We just gather all that so we know what to do next time. And then we ask what was right. We celebrate. We ask what was wrong. We punch people in the face. We ask what was missing. We shake our finger at them. We ask what was confusing, and then new ideas for next time. I'll give that to you again. I went really fast. What was right? What was wrong? What was missing? What was confusing? And ideas for next time. What was right? What was wrong? What was missing? What was confusing? Ideas for next time. I want to tell you that this has been one of the best tools for our team for all things. We walked away from some of these meetings as one of our team members gets beat up in a meeting. We go into a one-on-one and we go, how did that feel? Man, the pressure and all the things. Okay, how can we help you grow in this area? Let's grow together. Now we have something to swing at. And instead of you being frustrated every time you give that leader a job, oh, they're just going to do it again. You can't give it to them because they're not going to do it. No, you have a responsibility to equip the saints for the work of the ministry. So don't give up on somebody. Don't not give them ministry opportunity. Get in the trenches with them. Dig deep with them. Cry with them. Punch them in the nose. Grab them by the arm. Pray with them. Teach them how to do it right. Rinse and repeat and get good. And before you know it, after a couple times, you're going to sit back like a proud pop and be like, let's go. That went really well. Here's a question I want you, last film of like, if you're taking notes, when you take time to critique, here's what you're saying. I want us to win. I want us to win. Everybody, we all want to win. I want us to win. It's not just about me winning. It's about the team, you winning. I want you to ask this question. What feedback loops do you need to add that you don't have right now? And just practically, if you don't have these feedback loops, just start in a really simple way. Pick 1 or 2 big events that are coming up this year, and grab some people, okay? Not just your staff. Grab the key non-staff member that's leading the event, invite them in the room. Invite an old person, invite a young person in the room, invite different perspectives, and let everybody speak into it. If you guys want any of our event evaluation stuff, or you want to call and talk to somebody, I want to give you an email real quick. Trina, Trena, if she's in here. Sorry, Trina, I didn't tell her I was doing this. Trina at tgpcares.com. Trena at tgpcares.com. We'll give you our one-on-one, oversight format meetings. They're not rocket science, okay? But if you want us to send that to you, we'd be happy to. And if you want to call us and ask us any question at all, we're here to serve you. We're here to work with you. We're here to learn from you.
Say it one more time.
Trena at tgpcares.com. All right, I'm done. You guys, anybody have any questions that maybe we can learn from each other around this topic? Are there any questions? I'm going to have my wife come up here and help me answer these questions. And Clay.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, you guys have heard me talk for 40 minutes, so these guys live in this stuff.
I guess it's kind of a practical answer, maybe it's something slow, but when you talk about releasing influence, how does that practically look, like to release influence?
Clay, will you talk about our recent staff meeting with Amanda? So we have an associate pastor, and she has some responsibilities. And there was some authority that needed to be handed over to her. Will you just talk about that a little bit? He's on the spot. I didn't prepare him.
Well, she was given like a title change, and so the last staff meeting that we had, they gave her a new title but didn't clarify what the expectations were for her, what her new responsibilities were, and so they really took time to clearly define like what that looked like, different things that we could go to her for, the different ministries that she had the authority to speak over or speak into. So
just it's simple, just practice and giving clarity. It's funny how there's a lot of frustration right there until we brought that up for her, and then the rest of the team.
Well, because we messed up. We said, hey, she was our next steps pastor. And she just started, she was doing so much more than next steps. Like she's an overachiever. And she did so great and kept giving her stuff. And then one time me and Shawn looked at each other like, her title is next steps pastors, but she's doing all these other things that have nothing to do with next steps. So we get this bright idea. We're thinking we're just being so cool and such great pastors. We're like, Amanda, we're just going to make you the associate pastor. And she's like, awesome, that sounds great, thank you. You know, there's no raise in that, but you are now the associate pastor, right? Like, there actually was a little raise in it. But, so we're like, you're going to be the associate pastor, great, woohoo, this is awesome. We walk away, high five. Man, we commissioned her, we did it all, you know, like she's ready to go. And several months later, she kind of comes in one of our one-on-ones, which, good thing we have these things, right? And she gives us some feedback like, hey, you say I'm the associate pastor and I'm doing all these things, but I'm not really sure if anybody else knows that I am supposed to be doing these things or that I have the authority to do these things. And so it makes me feel like I can't really do my job fully because I'm kind of like walking on eggshells. Like, can I go to Pastor Pam, who is been like a mother figure to me and an amazing woman of God that's been on staff for 35 years? Can I go to her and speak into her ministry and challenge her in things? Because technically I am the associate pastor, but do I have the influence and do I have the authority to do that? And so we were like, well, yeah, you do. And then she's like, well, I don't think anybody else knows that. And so we said, so we had to have a commissioning for her, basically. So in staff, in front of our all staff, we said, hey, Amanda's the associate pastor. We told y'all that, but we didn't really tell you what that meant. And so what that means is she's not your boss. You have a direct report. None of that has changed. But she is over all of these areas, and so if she sees something in your ministry, she has the authority, with respect, with kindness, to come to you and go like, hey, this is something from the outside that I'm seeing. I think I can help you here. I think I can speak to this. I think we can make it better. And we need you as a staff to go, tell me more. How can I do it? Be okay with that. And so we gave her that influence. So a lot of it's just, sometimes it's clarity, like speaking that out. A lot of times bringing influence or giving them influence is by like you doing stuff with them. Like they see like, oh, and you kind of introducing them. Like I like to introduce like our staff to people like, oh, this is our young adults pastor. He's over everything young adults. Or it doesn't even have to be a staff member. It could be a volunteer from the stage, encouraging or, like just giving them a shout out. Props to our security director. Thank you. He's so amazing. He oversees all this, and it just kind of speaks and gives language. You're giving influence to them so that the people in the church and everybody knows like, oh, they have kind of the stamp of approval. They've been commissioned. They have the right and the authority to do the things that they're doing.
Somebody else?
I've been trying to institute one-on-one meetings for a couple of years with my board of directors and our ministry leaders. And some of them like it. I've had really good conversations. And some of them are really hard to nail down. And I'm a systems guy. I like to have it on the calendar so that every 2 months I try to do all of them once. And I ask them, like, I will, go to where you want me to be. I will do it the time you want to do it at. If the time that I have picked does not work for you, please reschedule it. And some of them are just really dodgy. It gets really annoying. And like, I don't want to just say, okay, you don't want to be on leadership or what? You know, like it's to that point where, so how do you couch those meetings? Because I want it to be relational and business. But I feel like some of them, because it's on the calendar, they're supposed to meet with the pastor every 2 months, and it's like too mechanical instead of organic, and they don't want to do that. I'm like, well, I don't know.
So here's what I would say. You've heard the phrase clarity is kindness. I would just have a genuine sit down, and I would just honestly let them know, like, hey, this is really important organization because you're more important. Your own personal life is more important than what you do for us as a mission. And if we can't have these one-on-ones, it's going to be really hard for me to work with you. And I care so much about you. And I would just do what you said. If you have a job description, put a job description back into it. Hey, is there anything missing on here that we need to add to here? And I just want to remind you, in order for us to function, here's how we function. Like this. I would ask them to agree on this for every commitment. If it's really important to you, and you have to be willing to lose them, though. But I think you can lead them to that. I really do. You have it in you to lead them to that.
And maybe too, asking them for feedback in that, saying like, hey, it seems like it's really hard for me to nail this down. Do you not want to meet with me? Like, is this not working for you? How can I make this more beneficial for you? Because this is also, not only is this me wanting to share my heart with you, but I want you to share your heart with me. So like, is there a better time for it? Is there, better questions we can go through? Like, is there a better way, a better setting? Like, I want to, not just you to serve me, but I want to serve you too. So like, maybe there's a reason, and maybe they're just busy, and they just kind of need that reminder of like, hey, this is really important. It is a priority. It may not seem like important in the grand scheme of things to you, but it really, really is. Our connection and our relationship is important to go forward and lead together.
So where do you draw the line in I've commissioned, I've given them so many opportunities, I've coached them up, I've through feedback, but you just keep dropping the ball?
Yeah.
Like where is that line between I love you and I want to bring you up to this level of leading, but you just started it? Where is that?
Well, we haven't fired anybody yet. We might be really close, but we're not really there yet. In some of the other ministry environments we've been in, where we haven't had to be the one to do that, I would always ask, is there somewhere else in the organization that they could be better? And unfortunately, that may mean it's actually not a paid position. But the good news is one of the things that we try to do even with volunteers is when we give people clarity, we let them know, like, listen, here are the 3 tangible things that we need to happen to know that it can. We're going to meet 60 days to relook at these 3 things. And if they're not there, you're telling me that this is just not good. And we're going to have to figure something out. So we do that, we haven't had to do that with the staff member yet, but we have had to do that with just regular volunteers, and I would treat that the same exact way. So when you're doing the one-on-one, you're giving them clarity, and you're letting them know, like, I don't like to surprise people. I don't like to be surprised, but I think that's the time to do it.
Kind of goes with that whole thing of when we ask, like, is anything bugging you? Because we don't want to, like, at the end of the year have this big mountain of things. Same thing, you need to give clarity to the people when you're meeting with them, like, hey, you are missing the mark. I want to give you grace, and we're going to try to work through this, and we're going to give you another chance. But also, if this doesn't happen, and if we can't figure it out, then we'll have to look a different way.
We have time for one more question. Hey guys, thank you for your time. We appreciate you guys. Have a great week.